On this episode of Victoire, I had the honor of speaking with an ECW, WWE, and TNA wrestling legend. He is a man who certainly put extreme on the map during the 1990s. He also has one of the highest IQs of all professional wrestlers. He's a poet, and he knows it. Today's guest, Raven. Victoire. Sponsored by California's own Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market. Family owned and operated since 1972. Additional sponsors: Desert Golfing Digest, Golf Information and Travel Guide of the Coachella Valley, 760-399-6517. From Ukaipa, Steamers, Fine Cleaners and Laundry, a 5-star service on a first-name basis, 909-797-1947. Body Art Bus, the very first tattoo artist to be licensed in the state of California for a mobile service. Contact 760-645-0485. And now, on with the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Victoire. I am joined today by a legend, Raven, the man who redefined professional wrestling in the mid-90s, a man with one of the highest IQs in professional wrestling. Raven, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know if I have one of the highest IQs anymore. I know I used to, but but I don't know about it anymore.
No?
Too many chair shots and too many drugs and chair shots to the head.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But it didn't start like that, obviously, Raven.
No.
That's one of the things that I really wanted to delve into today because I'm very curious about your life prior to pro wrestling. We obviously scripted storylines. We heard you were the rich kid and all of that, with the Scotty Flamingo character. But why don't you tell us, who were you as a child? What were your dreams and aspirations, your family life? What were your parents doing? Things like that. Where do you grow up?
I was born in Philadelphia. I lived there till I was like 9. Then we moved to, my dad goes, he was a journalist. So he was city editor of the Philadelphia Daily News and this Bulletin and all the other Philadelphia papers. And he goes, we're either going to move to Hawaii or Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we're like, Hawaii. So he goes, turns out we're going to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I spent a year in Milwaukee while my dad worked for a paper there. I don't know why he didn't take the Hawaii job. I guess it didn't pay as much or something, but then we moved to Florida. My dad got a job as a senior editor, the number 2 guy at the National Enquirer.
Wow.
And so we moved to Florida, and that's where I grew. That's where I spent my I guess 11 to adulthood,
Yeah.
until I moved away as go to college and stuff.
Yeah. Were you very close to your dad?
No.
No?
He couldn't say I love you. He couldn't show any emotion. It was funny, but it was a very insult humor, like Don Rickles.
Mhm.
So it really destroyed my sense. He didn't mean it, obviously, but I thought he was hilarious. So I always wanted to be funny like him.
Yeah.
And but he destroyed my sense of self-worth because he would always insult me, in a comical way.
Mhm.
And I was smart enough to know that he didn't mean it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you can't control the subconscious, and the subconscious just took a pounding, and that's why I became such an egotistical person for a long time.
Yeah. But what about your mom? Where was she in this equation?
She worked as well, so I was a latchkey kid, you know. And yeah, no, she was just there. I mean, she was, yeah, my family, no one really, none of the 4 of us, I have a sister too. None of the 4 of us would have ever chosen the other ones as friends or family if we had a choice. Like none of us had any, and we didn't. Well, I guess my dad chose my mom, and then she chose him. But they drifted apart, and then we had nothing in common with them, and so it was a lot of 4 people with nothing in common. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of a lot of not neglect, but not a lot of there's no love in the family, no lovingness.
Hmm, I see. So what did you find for solace then? What was your love? What did you use to fill that?
Uh Being a braggart and well, people that are egotistical are just insecure.
Yeah.
They're trying to convince you to convince them that they're great. Because if you can convince them, maybe if you can convince them, then maybe they can convince you.
Yeah.
But I loved pro wrestling as a kid.
Yeah.
Um, I grew up watching it, wanting to do it, and then finally I figured, I didn't want to be 50 years old going, man, I should have tried that. I woulda, coulda, shoulda. So I decided to go for it after I graduated college and went in the Marine Corps.
So you were always very outgoing then, I presume.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So that would definitely help that. But you did go to college, right? So what were you
yeah.
studying in college?
I went to the University of Delaware and got a degree in criminal justice,
Wow.
which I was either going to go into the FBI or the DEA or something like that. Is what I wanted to do, but then I decided I wanted to, like I said, pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I wanted to didn't want to go through life having regrets.
Yeah. So at this time, were there any love interests for you, or you pretty much solo at this
No,
point?
I was a huge womanizer. Yeah, I slept with a lot of women.
Oh dear.
Um, which it was when I was a younger, it was that you were proud of that. Now I don't think it's something to brag about, but it was I don't know,
A different time back then for sure.
different time. It's totally different time.
Yeah, totally different. So then at this time you obviously you're going to follow professional wrestling. Where did you start to train? Where did you start to learn the
I
business?
went to Larry Sharp's Monster Factory up in New Jersey.
Okay. So during that time, how were you supporting yourself?
I was a bouncer at nightclubs.
All right. Yeah. And what was the time duration between training and then hitting? Because what was the first company you worked for? It wasn't WCW, correct? It was
Mm-mm.
USWA or
Mm. The Yeah, the first company. Well, actually, what it was I went to the Monster Factory and after about a month, Larry Sharp said, "There's nothing I can teach you. You need to be out there having matches."
yeah.
He goes, whatever you're going to learn, you need to learn in front of people, in front of crowds. And and then and so for the next 9 months, I sent out a tape of my few matches that I had and tried to get booked. This is when they were VHS tapes, and you mail them out.
Yeah.
And I sent them to every promoter. And there's still about 9 or 10 territories left.
Mhm.
And what was it? Yeah, I had like 7 to 9 matches. I'm not sure exactly how many. I had like 7, 8, or 9 matches between the time I went to from the time I went to Larry Sharp's school until I went to Memphis when Memphis called me up.
Yeah.
And then I was in Memphis for like 2.5 months, and then they finished me up. And then I went to Florida Championship Wrestling for 10 months, and then they finished me up. And then I went to Vancouver, Canada for a month
Oh,
for Al Tomko, and then from there I went to Portland. I spent 2 years there. That's where really where I learned how to work. Because you worked 6 nights a week back then,
yeah. Yeah.
never less than 5 and 7, and sometimes 7 nights a week.
Gosh. Now, how did you adjust with one of the questions I ask a lot of the guys is the toll on the body. So initially when you got in the ring, did you find it easy to adapt to the bumps and things like that, or was it still a process of like, ouch, that hurt?
No, it's brutal. Like the first night I had a concussion. I'm sure. Like I never had a concussion before, but I'm pretty sure I had one. Although I didn't think so at the time. I didn't know what a concussion was, but from taking back bumps, because the first day you just keep taking back bumps, but tucking your chin is not a natural act when you're taking a back bump, and so you bang your head on the mat. Like, oh, it was brutal. I wanted to quit that night. It was so bad. I wanted to quit. I was in so much pain after the first night, but
Yeah.
I couldn't see going home to my friends and telling them, yeah, well, I lasted one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So And being a U.S. Marine, I didn't want to, I thought that'd be kind of, that's pretty pathetic. So I didn't want to, debase myself like that.
Yeah.
So I just stuck it out, and then I eventually got used to it. And you get used to it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, hitting the ropes, and taking bumps. The thing that I guess like an idiot, like to me, I thought since wrestling's fake, the outcome's predetermined. It doesn't hurt. It's brutal, you
Yeah.
know. But I don't know why I didn't think that it would still hurt. You know what I mean? I guess I just thought that it was,
Yeah.
the outcome's predetermined. It's fake, so why would it hurt? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Plus
But
you plus you were young at the time, and were you already pretty big at the time? Because I remember when you were Scotty Flamingo, you were already pretty sizable there.
yeah, and I was 220, 220, 225, 220.
Yeah.
But I was like the smallest guy in the business right then,
Yeah.
other than X-Pac, other than the 1, 2, 3 kid. I was
Yeah.
like the smallest guy in the business. That's why Vince brought me in as a manager, because I was too small, they said, you
Yeah.
know. Now I'd be, normal size, I'd be average guy,
Yeah. Because what is your height? How tall are you, Raven?
6 foot.
All right. Yeah. So you're pretty tall, though.
Yeah, I've been like 6 foot 250 for the last 10, 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. You're 250 right now?
Yeah, I don't want to be 250. I want to be 235, but
Yeah.
um I could live with 240, but I'm like 249, 248.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about a little bit about that Scotty Flamingo character. Now, was that the character you were using prior to WCW, or was that a WCW creation?
The WCW, that was Dusty's idea.
Yeah.
And I used I was a character similar to that, Scotty the Body.
Yeah.
And and that's what I used in all the territories I worked in. And uh and then Dusty made me Scotty Flamingo because I call you the Flamingo Kid, baby.
Yeah.
He had big plans for me too, and he told me the first night I had the big plans he had for me, and then Watts came in and Watts got rid of me, so that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Watts thought I was too small.
Hmm. Interesting, because I remember a promo you did with Johnny B. Bad, where you
Hmm.
kind of did the same accent as Johnny, the same affectation with your
Yeah,
voice.
yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been shortly after that. But then, of course, you went to WWF, and
I actually went to USWA in
you went.
between
Oh, okay. How long were you there?
months.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how many, 3 to 6, something like that.
Hmm. 3 to 6 months. But then when Vince brought you in and gave you the manager role with Adam Baum, but then also you did color commentary with Vince. I
Right.
like
And
Vince.
I was also associate producer of Monday Night Raw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had an office in Titan Tower in the executive floor across from Pat and Bruce.
Wow. So
Yeah,
I never heard of that. I never knew that. Wow.
yeah.
How did that come about? Just through
Just
talking?
because Vince saw the intelligence and the cleverness and the creativity I had,
Hmm.
and he wanted to make me a producer.
Yeah.
Um, the They were also grooming me to be on the booking committee, but I never wanted to do that because I wanted to wrestle.
Mhm.
You can't really do both, and especially not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. It must have been grueling.
Yeah,
But what was it
yeah.
like?
But I only had like 4 years in the business at this point.
That's true. Yeah. It would have been 93,
Yeah,
94. Yeah.
yeah. And 94. So I didn't know. I guess I had 94. When I got into business in 90, I got in 87 is when I went to wrestling school. And 90 and eight, I mean 87 I went to wrestling school. 88 February of 88 was when I started my first territory in Memphis.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a pretty quick ride
Yeah,
to the top to the international platform. Who
yeah.
who are some of the guys that you did admire when you said you were younger and you watched it? Who were some of your favorites back then?
Uh, I love Chief J Strongbow because he'd go into war dance and pretend he'd be impervious to pain, and he'd make that superhuman comeback, a Superman comeback.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. But you also had other interests, right, Raven? Because I know you like the comic book world, the action, all that kind of stuff. So was that already?
Yeah, I used to. No, I stopped reading. I used to read comics as a kid, like everybody, and then I stopped reading them. And then I found out they're written for adult. About 95, I found out that they're being written more for a mature audience,
Yeah.
like for an adult audience, because the people that started writing comic books wanted to write for their own interest,
Hmm.
not for kids.
Yeah.
You know, not that kids couldn't follow it, but it was, you know, written at a higher literacy level.
Hmm.
And so I became a big comic junkie at that point.
Okay. So that was in 95. So this
Yeah,
would
94, 95.
95. So what happened during that time when you left WWF as Johnny Polo, the clean cut, very articulate, and then you show up in ECW as Raven, you know, the grunge, so
Hmm.
that transformation, what was it that made you just decide I'm going to go in the complete opposite direction here and come up with this character? I mean, arguably it's like I said, it's a legendary character now. But what was the motivation behind that? Because I remember when I saw you personally, I was like, that can't be Johnny Polo because it was so vastly different. So what spawned that?
Well, I was talking to DDP, who's a good friend of mine, real good friend of mine, and I was saying I was complaining how, you know, WWE no longer they didn't want to use me as a wrestler, and I wanted to wrestle, and I'm having trouble getting booked other places as a chicken shit heel, and he goes, you can't be a chicken shit heel anymore. Nobody, no promoter is interested in it. You're gonna have to be a tough guy. I go, but everybody plays a tough guy. If I'm gonna do it, I want to do my own variation on it. And he goes, and because I dressed like Raven anyway, he goes, you look like those Red Hot Chili Pepper guys. He goes, you ought to go in that direction. And then I just created the Raven character and went off in that direction.
Yeah.
And I mined all my childhood pain from my parents not telling me that my dad not telling me he loved me,
Mhm.
you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a method actor. You really went into
Nah, I wasn't a method actor, but I will tell you that the character, the deeper I got into the character, the more the character imitated me, Scott Levy, the
yeah,
more Scott Levy became the character.
yeah,
And so I became more of a degenerate because to live up to the character.
yeah, yeah. You really carried that with you.
Yeah, so I guess there was more not that there's so much method, but the character I became the character became me.
Yeah,
I became the character, but then the character became me.
yeah. And what was it like adjusting to those extreme matches? Because I mean, yeah,
It was great because it's just more room for creativity with more weaponry.
yeah,
You know, my hardcore matches were never like anybody else's.
mhm,
You know, mine always had, you know, storylines. They had babyface getting the shine, heel getting the heat. You know, babyface making a comeback. You know, basic strategy. I had strategy in mind. Most people just went head. You know, I hit you, you hit me. I hit you, you hit me.
yeah,
But I used it for creativity purposes
mhm,
and told a story with it.
yeah. Very good stories. And did you have a producer role along with Paul in ECW?
No, Paul ran the show by himself.
Okay.
But
And
I
then,
but he took everybody's input, all the top guys' input, and
yeah.
he took. I mean, so I had a lot of input in what I said and did,
Mhm,
you know.
mhm.
But Paulie, the be all end all was Paulie, you know, and it has to be like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But then obviously, with speed rolling through the wrestling career, then WCW come knocking again, and they bring you in, and then you create the Flock in WCW. So what was that?
Well, I had the nest in ECW. It was the same thing,
Yeah,
and that's why Terry Taylor gave me the flock to so I could because he saw how well I worked with having a group of guys doing my dirty work, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Because there's an art form to it. You can't just say, you know, everybody has a valet now, but there's psychology to it. There's psychology to everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I invented those. I didn't invent, but I created a lot of those 10-part finishes where one guy would come in, get bumped, the other guy would feed in, he'd get bumped, the other guy would come in, like multi-part finishes. I didn't create that or invent that. I'm not just saying that, but I utilized that with the flock, and the nest and WC and ECW
Yeah,
to the best of my abilities.
yeah. So what was it like going back to WCW? Now you're going to be a bigger star than the last time, and now WCW is a bigger platform. What was it like working for them in those years you went back there?
Yeah, it was good, and except that then I got kind of clogged behind the line. Like there's like 10 guys on top, like, Flair, Luger, the Big Show, Nash Hall, and then right below him was Conan, me, Booker, Jericho, and like the four of us were younger, and we felt like we should have a break. You know what I mean? And we didn't get it, and that's when I quit the company.
Yeah. And then you went back to ECW, is that correct?
Right, right.
Yeah. So you went
And then
back.
my drug addiction got out of control, and I ended up quitting
Mhm.
drugs. Had to quit drugs at that point, but yeah, it was yeah, I got out of control at that point.
Mhm. How did you do that? Because obviously, help someone who may have be dealing with that themselves, who may see this. How did you work through that?
You gotta first of all, you gotta be ready. You gotta want to detox. You gotta want to quit doing drugs. If people try and convince you to do them, you're not going to do it. You have to want to.
Yeah.
And so it's like the if you're trying to convince someone to quit or get clean, it's never going to happen unless that person wants to do it. So first of all, you have to want to do it. And then the way I did it was I detoxed on Suboxone, which is a agonist antagonist. It's an opiate, but it doesn't get you high, so it just replaces the opiates in your system, and so you don't go into withdrawals, but you also don't get high from it. So that's how you start, and you take, and it's much easier to taper down that. And that's still not easy to taper down, but it's easier to taper down that than the opiates themselves, and then you just taper down and get off.
Yeah. Did you have any outside support at that time? Were you married at the time, or did you have any other friends support you during that?
Yeah, I had friends supporting me, but it's really I had to do it on my own.
Yeah.
I mean, I had friends with me, but it's rough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So then when were you clean? What year were you clean?
I was clean before I went back to New York, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think in '99. And then I dabbled off and on for 5, 6, 7 years after that, but never as bad. And then at some point I just quit for a period, for good.
Yeah, yeah, because there was a period there when you returned to WWF, well, it was still WWF at the time, and I remember you got in fantastic shape. You were even tanned, and you did the blonde dreadlocks at the
Mm-hmm.
time. You were starting to wear I don't I always feel like Roddy Piper. I don't want to say a skirt. It was like a kilt sort of
There's a skirt.
skirt. All right, there we go.
There's
But
a skirt.
you were in great shape then. So was that point when you were coming clean off of
Yeah,
everything?
I was already clean at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, and you went back to doing some commentating as well, I recall.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vince, he was grooming me once again. He wanted me to be on a booking committee,
Mm,
and I didn't want to do it because I wanted to wrestle.
yeah, yeah, and then you continued, obviously, you
He
left.
didn't. He wasn't at that point. He wasn't grooming me. I'm sorry. At that point, he asked me if I wanted to be on a booking committee,
Mhm,
which I didn't. But
yeah. How were you enjoying the product at that time? Because everything was changing rapidly at that time. How were you enjoying it compared?
I tell you, I got disillusioned when they did the invasion angle, and they just buried everybody.
Yeah,
Nobody got pushed, nobody got used, and it was just so disheartening that I stopped watching wrestling then,
yeah,
and I never picked it up again. Also, yeah, I've seen as much wrestling. First of all, there's tons of good TV shows, so I haven't, so it's like I want to watch that stuff. Plus reading, I want to read books. So there's no time. If you're watching wrestling, yeah, I'm one of those people who's a completist. I have to watch all the product,
yeah,
so I'd have to watch all the product, which leaves you no time for anything, for reading or for watching TV or anything. And so I just, when I stopped watching wrestling, I just never went back. You
mhm,
know,
yeah. Well, reading is
so
cer
I couldn't tell you. The only reason I know that The Rock was involved in WrestleMania was because everybody was talking about it at WrestleCon. But other than that, I had no idea. Like I wouldn't even have known that. That's how little I pay attention to the business.
yeah. Well, reading is certainly positive. We know that you have a fascination in ancient societies and things like that.
Yeah.
That's a topic you love to talk about, so we'll delve into that. So when did that interest start bubbling up?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That was I think when the Ancient Aliens show came on, I think that's what first grabbed my attention.
Yeah,
And then I started reading up about it, and that's probably 10, 15 years ago.
yeah.
And then I started reading on it, and I read a lot of books. Like I probably have 100 books on the subject on similar that and similar subjects, um, which are really a pain in the ass when you move. We bought a new house recently, like a couple years ago,
Yeah,
and so I had to move all my shit.
yeah,
And so I got tons of boxes of books
yeah.
that I'm like, yeah, I got to build a shelf for them, a couple shelves. But yeah, but never move with books. Books are so heavy, they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like the movers were complaining, but yeah, just rebuy the books.
Yeah.
But yeah, I read a lot of books, and you know it was really good to find out when the Pentagon admitted that UFOs are real.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's starting to come out now. I remember before Ancient Aliens, it was UFO Hunters on the History Channel. And I actually spoke with Bill Burns. He's on
hmm
Ancient Aliens a couple of times.
hmm
We're trying to develop a TV show about 12 or 13 years ago now. But yeah, it's a very interesting subject, because it's loitered throughout all the ancient religions, the religious texts too. I mean, it's right
yeah,
there, black and white. There's no denying.
yeah. It's like the Zechariah Sitchin, the Sumerian texts.
Mhm.
You know, there's still 500,000 stone clay tablets that haven't even been read yet. But the ones they have, some of the ones they have read, talk specifically about aliens, the Anunnaki, and how they came to Earth and whatnot.
Yeah. Have you ever visited any of the ancient sites? Have you got a chance to?
No, because by the time that I got around to really wanting to, and that being able to have a lesser schedule, it was the pandemic,
No.
you know, and then after the pandemic, you know, I had to get my knees replaced, and I got my shoulder replaced, and you know, so I haven't got around to going anywhere yet. And also, like Egypt, I want to go to Egypt and see the pyramids, but you know, I don't want to go there, and you know, I don't want to get hijacked or shot, or you know, I'm Jewish. You know, my family's Jewish.
Yeah.
I'm not religious, so I don't follow the faith.
Yeah.
But you know, with the Jewish last name, you know, I don't feel like getting shut down. You know,
Yeah. You gotta be safe. Yeah.
yeah. And
But
so, and then you know, I had to get my knees replaced. So I'm like, well, there goes going to um south of it goes uh, there goes going to Sacsayhuaman and in Peru and
yeah.
Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
That's all tons of walking. You
Tons
know,
of
I'm not. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. You know what? I'm just gonna enjoy it on the television set. I got a 70-inch TV. I can see it just as well as probably better than if it went there.
yeah. How are you healing up, by the way? Because you said 4 years ago. How's your shoulder and your knees now?
Yeah, I had my knees done in 22. So 22 was spent doing rehabbing, rebuilding my knees. You know, I got them both replaced one at a time. And then I got my shoulder replaced in 23, and that's still recovering now. Um, like I can still only rotate it to here, and
Uh-huh.
they had to do a reverse replacement. They had to put the ball because it was so damaged. They had to put the cap where the ball goes and the ball where the cap goes. So
Ouch.
it's a reverse shoulder replacement,
Yeah.
and so it's a little harder, I think, to rehab, but it's coming along fine.
Oh, that's good. And what about your because I had done some research and I heard about your autoimmune condition and that from years back. Have you got that in remission now? You got that under control?
I don't have an autoimmune condition.
Oh, I thought maybe I just read.
No, no, I have type 2 diabetes. I got a heart condition.
Oh.
Um, I got a sleep disorder that's brutal.
Mhm.
But you know, problem with the sleep disorder is it's really it's I wake up like 30 times a night,
No.
so I never sleep solid. I use a CPAP, and and it's also I have apnea, I have narcolepsy, I have a couple different things, but I wake up so much in the night that when I wake up in the morning, I'm just as tired as when I went to bed.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so and then some days I'll have energy, some days I won't have any. So it's really a pain in the ass more than anything.
Yeah.
But like I mean, but it beats having like cancer or something, you know. I mean, I'd rather have this than that,
Yeah.
you know. And you know, so what's the worst thing that happens? I have to take a nap every day.
Yeah.
You know, like who's going to complain that that's the negative on the ailment.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, was this something that developed later, or did you always have certain?
No, no, it developed later. Like it was I think it's because of all the drug use and chair shots, mostly the drug use, I think.
Mhm.
Happened about 15, 20 years ago, and then it's gotten, you know, better and worse at the same time, you know.
Mhm.
Like it's hard to explain. It'd take a long time to explain any deeper, but it's, you know, it is what it is, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be so much worse, so I'm not going to complain, you know.
Yeah. Do you work with a doctor? Do you do hormone therapy or anything like that?
No, I work with I have a sleep doctor. I've had like 8 sleep studies, you
Mhm.
know, and they all say basically the same thing,
Mhm.
that it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, like I said, we never know with the advancement of everything that we see now with supplement
Yeah.
nutrition, you never know, it could heal up. I hope it does for you.
Yeah, no, I keep hoping it will. I'll never give up on it, you know. Like I'll never give up waiting for it to heal itself, but
Yeah.
you know, it could be a while.
Yeah. So going back to your one of your favorite subjects there, the antediluvian society
Hmm.
races and things like
Explain
that.
what antediluvian is to the listeners because they're not going to know.
So it's pre-flood,
Pre-flood.
pre-flood. Yeah. So
Right.
like Noah's flood for all the listeners out there.
Thank
Um,
you.
so
I know what it is, obviously, but I don't want to have a show where people are going, "What the fuck are they talking about?" You know?
yeah. So I've got some theories, Raven. I often think about because in the Bible we talk about the giants and and even
Well,
in
let me just say, the Bible is such a rehash of old Sumerian texts.
Mhm.
You know, like every story in the Bible has already been done, told, and you know, like people that think that the Jesus story is a unique thing. Every culture had the same thing where there was one guy who was a savior who came back on a third day, and he had 12 disciples, because it's all about the astrology. It's
Yeah,
about the 12 disciples, is the planets, is the months. The come back on the third day is when the sun goes below the horizon, and then it comes back up again after 3 days on December 22nd, 25th, I guess.
yeah,
And I forget as much detail as I used to know, but people think that it's, you know, and like every other culture had the same story going back thousands of years. You know, think about this: we're only 200 years when we've been on the North America.
yeah, it's
You
true.
know, and that's talking about thousands of years. You know, and and it's only been 2,000 years since BC, so thousands of years since Jesus was supposedly there. It's only thousands of years before that, even. That's like 5,000 years ago.
Yeah,
And it's all been like Noah's flood. Was Every culture had a story of Noah's flood, except it wasn't Noah, it was somebody else. Gilgamesh and the Sumerians, who were first.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of. What is your theory on evolution? Then I've got to ask.
Um, Okay, here's the problem I have with it. There's no proof. There's only proof of minor evolution. There's no proof of macroevolution. There's
Right.
no proof of going from one species to the next.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, why? And then why would the ape species go and become intelligent, but it wouldn't go with the lizard species or with the fish species?
Yeah,
You know, it's because there was DNA added from the ancient aliens.
yeah. There's a lot
But
of
see, here, let me just say too that now if you're lumped into regular like conspiracy theories, People had conspiracy theories for a long time, but now it's gotten so overborne and so whacked out. Flat Earth and all that. They're giving a good conspiracy theory a bad name.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of, especially since 2020. There's a lot
Yeah,
of stuff online now. I mean, a lot of it is eye-opening. You mentioned flat Earth there. I mean, I've watched the tapes. I've
ridiculous.
looked at some of this stuff. There's a lot of some of these theories out there, though, when they really delve into them, there's some credence to certain things that make you think. But but coming back,
Right,
yeah.
right. But if you look at it, but here's the thing with ancient alien theory,
Hmm.
there's no other way that could have happened, because unless we were hybrided from something from a bigger, a greater species than ours, because there's no way we could have created what we created. We can't build the pyramids today. Think about that.
Of course
We
not.
could make a pyramid, but it wouldn't be anywhere close to as precise and as precisely like it's for a building its size. It's so precisely measured on the horizons, on the levels, from side to side, and everything and it incorporates the pi and the golden ratio.
Yeah.
And we couldn't build it today. We just couldn't.
Yeah. There's no
And how could we not build something in 2024 that we built in 1500 or 2000 BC?
yeah. Yeah. There,
That's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what we're taught at school. We're taught that a bunch of slaves pulled those rocks in and built that pyramid. It's
And it
absolutely,
wasn't even, well, they found it. Now they at least they admit it wasn't even slaves. They know it was laborers that they paid for them to do it,
yeah.
but who probably did the dirty work. But to actually to set that up and to create the planning, and to create and to move the stones, because some are just too heavy to move.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I've got to ask you, what's your thoughts on the giants then? The ancient giant
No,
civilization.
now giants. Now we giants are, there's so much written work, newspapers from the 1800s of all kinds of giant skeletons found that would basically, or enough documented evidence that I would concur that there really were giants. Um, but unfortunately, they they basically, the Smithsonian Institute, when it was first created, they wanted to keep a particular theory of evolution. They didn't want giants in it, and they would lose all this. They would request all the bones of giants if they would pop up around the country, and then they would just lose them, and they disappeared for good. Disappeared a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a book I read that has like 500 pages, 400 pages, and it's all newspaper clippings, copies of newspaper clippings of giant bones being found, and then basically, um, so the proving that there, proving as much as you can prove that were giants. But yeah, as far as giants back in ancient history, though, I don't know. I don't put a lot of stock in the Bible.
Is it, did your
Well, because the Bible was written 400 years later.
yeah. But what about your parents though? Because you mentioned your Jewish background, so the Torah.
They weren't religious. I never got bar mitzvah. I didn't get any of that.
Okay. Yeah. So now, so you got to evolve more organically, and you're observing what's happening around you, you're studying yourself, and this is why you come to these conclusions.
Yeah, I just think that I mean, okay, like there wasn't even a. If you look at history, there's almost no proof that there's no proof of Jesus ever even living. Frankly, like all the only place that Jesus' name is written down in anywhere in any history book is in the Bible from back then. And the Romans would keep track of like the news of the day. They had daily newspapers or stuff like that, or not. I don't know about daily, but they had newspapers, not newspapers, but the equivalency of back then. And they would talk about, like such and such a prophet, Warren the prophet, or Bob the prophet, or Joe Bob the prophet. and but nowhere ever was Jesus's name ever brought up until he shows up in the Bible, which is written, which is conglomerated of 400 years later and written over 100 years later.
But
That'd be like now if there's no newspapers, no TV, and lack of literacy, and we tried to discover. I mean, we tried to discuss the turn of the century. You know, it's got to be a lot of word, hand to mouth, word, mouth to mouth, people just passing it on, and a lot of it can't be accurate.
yeah, well, do you think though?
Oh wait, and hold on,
Yeah,
and when the writing at the time, there was no periods, there was no punctuation marks, and they were all the letters were ran together. It's like one long thing, and so you could have a sentence that said God is nowhere, or it could say God is now here.
mhm.
Same letters, it's the same thing. It just depends how you read it, you know.
The only thing I would give a little rebuttal on that is if you were to look at everything now, Raven, that's happening, especially in the media, with the music industry, everybody who's blatantly coming out now and they're talking about satanic worship, their Illuminati stuff, they're blatantly exposing it now. Do you think perhaps that maybe something so good like the Bible, like the story of Christ, could have been just swept clean for a purpose to be able to keep people from finding that peace, that truth? Because we know, I mean, it's pretty obvious that there is some kind of dark agenda going on. I mean, it's obvious. There's
Yeah,
something.
see, like that, I can't put stock in any of that.
Mhm.
The ancient alien theory I can put stock in because there's no I can find no other answer to solve the mysteries of human evolution and and uh and the building of certain buildings and society and the written word, like in the Sumerian texts. So, but most conspiracy theories I find are just that, conspiracy theories, and that's why I'm so glad that the Pentagon admitted to UFOs. So at least the one theory that I believe in that is not considered the norm has some sort of verification to it.
Yeah.
But with what you were saying, um, I don't believe there's a Satan. I don't believe there's a devil. I think there's a I think, like, I think hell is, if there is an afterlife, the hell would be your own your own pain.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like it'd be a reflection of your own damage, of what you believe you're guilty of. You know what I mean?
Be a very, very traumatic, very dark, horrible place. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But but that being said, have you ever seen anything yourself, Raven?
Yeah, I saw a UFO once. I saw a UFO. Um, I was out walking the dog, and I was walking along, and I saw a star that at first it caught my eye. Like I was like, wow, that's so bright that it's got to be a UFO. And I was like, and then I looked again. I was like, no, I bet it's Venus because Venus is super bright in the night sky, and it looks like people mistake it for a UFO all the time.
Yeah.
Except so I'm staring at it, and then there was another star like further away or smaller.
Mhm.
It was in the sky, and then it was right in that one spot, and then it just took off
Oh,
and started moving across the sky,
yeah.
and then eventually stopped moving.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how far away. Maybe could have been a mile, could have been 100 yards. It
Yeah.
was only like 100 yards. Like it looked like 100 yards or 500 yards to me, to my perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the fact that a star, or obviously not a star, went from one place, moved, and then stopped again. Not even a helicopter could do. Could A helicopter would be too low to the ground? I mean, and you would hear it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that far away.
Yeah.
So there's nothing else that it could be. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I tried filming it, but it was too small to be caught on my cell phone.
Hmm. Yeah. And
But yeah, but it was totally like I was like, holy shit, I just saw a UFO.
yeah. Have you ever been to one of the conventions that they have? Because they have conventions.
Nah, no,
Okay.
I just can't. I probably would enjoy it, but I just can't see roaming through the crowds anymore. I'm 59. Like stuff that I did when I was 35 and 45, 59. I'm just like, yeah, I'm past it. I'd rather watch it on TV.
Yeah, yeah. And what about your life now? The home life now. Are you married again? Have you got a partner now?
No, no, me and my wife got divorced, and then we got divorced to save the friendship,
Okay.
and then we became even closer, and then we started living together again, and now we have a house together again,
Oh, that's great.
and so we're once we got the marriage out of the way, we became even closer, and it's worked phenomenally. We've been together for, let's see, we got married in '07, so we've been together since '05, so 20 years just about.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
That's great, man.
thank you.
And I know you're an animal lover too. We
Yeah,
talked
dog
about that.
lover. Yeah,
Yeah. So you've got your dog. How is your dog doing, by the way?
yeah. My dog had to go to the hospital. It was near death last week, and that's why we had to push the show back. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
She's doing much better, and tomorrow I take her back in to get another checkup, and hopefully she's still doing well. But she still has some major surgery ahead of her, but not for a while. So
Yeah. Have you always been a dog lover your whole life?
no, no, I never. I hated dogs.
Oh,
Like I liked them as a kid. I liked my dog as a kid. My parents had dogs, but but I think I felt guilty because I never played with the dog that much when it got older, and so anyway, so all throughout my life, I just hated dogs after that. Like the dogs would always when they come to lick you, I was like, they're bothering me, get them away, you
yeah.
know. And then and but my ex-wife slash best friend slash life partner, I promised her that she's a dog lover from way back, and I promised her we'd get a dog once we got married. So after about 3 years, she's like, "Are we getting a dog?" I'm like, "All right, we'll get one."
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes after we had it, I was like, now I get dog lovers. Like I totally fell in love with it,
Yeah.
with the dog Lucian.
Yeah.
He only lasted like a year. He died of a brain tumor. It was brutal. It cost us $10,000 to find out we couldn't save him.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it was like a double whammy.
Yeah.
But then we got Gabriel, who lasted 13 years, and he was amazing. And then he passed away like 2 years ago. And then we got Loki. No, he passed away like a year ago, and we got Loki,
Mhm.
and she's great. I mean, we've been really lucky with our dogs, but yeah. So dogs. I mean, like, and once you fall in love with a dog, you totally get all the weird people out there that they're dog nuts, dog fanatics. But
Yeah.
if you don't, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
Like they don't get how they can be your child.
Yeah.
Like my buddy on one of my co-hosts on my podcast, both of my co-hosts are cat people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just don't get the cat love. You know what I mean? Like I understand it because I'm a dog lover, but I don't get it, because it's cats, you know what I mean? And cats are aloof, and they're not snuggles, they don't snuggle with you, and you know what I mean? They're not like it's different. It's a different relationship.
Yeah, definitely I'd say because my wife and I we've got a dog and a cat.
Ah,
So the cat, she'll put herself under my arm, so she'll sleep.
mm-hmm.
But you're right. She won't. Obviously, if we go out, the dog, we've got a Scottish Terrier, the dog will come up and jump up and down and bounce off the ground like a popcorn, wanting to our attention. The cat, yeah, she'll come around eventually. But yeah, they're a little bit more aloof. But it could be the same thing, Raven. You never know. You could get around a cat,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden
Yeah,
you're,
no, I get it. I mean, I do get it, but I just don't get it. It's just not the same as dogs. You know what I mean?
yeah, they are a little bit different.
And their size were like I'd be afraid of squishing it. Like I mean, I could never have a tiny, drop kick dog, as we call it. You
Yeah.
know, because they're too small. Like I don't want a small. Like Loki McLickerson's our dog we have now, and she's like 46 pounds,
Okay.
and that's as small as I could go to 35 maybe, but I don't want any smaller than that because you know.
What's her,
But what's that?
what's her breed?
Pit bull, a blue nose.
Pitbull. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They're pretty cute. Yeah, they're nice.
yeah. And she
So
has her ears. Like I hate when they crop the ears because it takes away the ears are so expression. They're like the eyebrows. Really, the ears are the
yeah,
way they form expressions and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And the reason we call her Loki is because her ears, she'll turn them like so they're out here, and she'll turn them around to the front,
Yeah.
and she looks like the Loki helmet with the horns. You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah,
The horns that go up like that.
yeah.
They look like that, so that's why we call her Loki.
That's cute, man. Yeah.
And
No,
then she'll lick me to death, so Loki McLickerson.
yeah. No, it's great that you have that. They are a great support. They're loving, you know. That's
Yeah,
what I love
really loving.
talk about there. Speaking of love, obviously you were such a great character. Have you ever had any really touching moments throughout, post your active days in the ring from fans? Have you ever had anything that's really been touching, a letter or something like that?
I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I was just curious if anybody had ever said, "Hey, thank you, Raven. You encouraged me."
Yeah, no, I get it. I get that. You know, I've had people name their kids after me.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. I mean, it's all really cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just saying there's nothing that's really touched me, like brought a tear to my eye that I can think of.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, but I also don't expect that because I'm not emotionally connected to them. They're
Mhm.
emotionally connected to me,
Right.
and I'm emotionally connected to them as a group, as a whole thing,
Yeah.
but not to the individual per se.
Yeah. Makes sense. That makes sense. Now, what about some of your peers, though? Because obviously you must have some lifelong friendships
Do I
there.
have any peers? I'm kidding. No, yeah, no, I have lifelong friends, but most I don't really keep in touch with people. I see them when I see them. It's like like Saturn. We saw each other at WrestleCon. We were together at the WrestleCon at a booth, and we hadn't seen each other in a couple of years. We barely talk on the phone, but it's just like we just saw each other yesterday.
Yeah.
The bonds so built that I don't find a need to keep in touch.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard that a lot. In fact, Marty Jannetty said to say hello to you. I was
Yeah,
talking.
tell Marty I said hi.
Yeah. Yeah. He was saying he enjoyed your company. He's a
Yeah.
nice guy. So, but nowadays, Raven, now you've talked about your other interests now. I was thinking about
Hang on, how much longer are we going on this?
probably just about 5 more minutes.
Okay, that's cool.
I was just going to say your interest today. What are you focusing on now? What are some of the things you do now?
I watch a lot of TV. Um, I do a lot of stuff, just regular daily shit that everybody does. But
Yeah.
because I sleep till 11, take a nap every day at 5. Stay up to watching TV till 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I just do regular stuff that everybody else does. I
Yeah.
just do it on a slower pace.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really have my interests are entertainment. I like being entertained. So
Yeah. Well, you got the mind for it, like you're a reader, you like to absorb knowledge, I guess.
hmm
So, well, I know that your time is precious, Raven, and I know that you've got other things that you need to get accomplished today. But I want to thank you for taking the time to join
thank
us.
you.
I appreciate it. It was a great conversation,
Yeah, I
and
enjoyed it. Thank you.
yeah, and thank you for your contributions, what you did in the entertainment industry. It was great.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
brother.
I guess when you said did any fan stuff like touch you, like that touches me. Like the fact that you felt like that I really helped contributed to the business and entertained you. That always touches me. So don't get me wrong. I don't mean to say. I just mean that nothing that I can think of off the top of my head has melted me. You know what I mean? Per se.
Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
I'm touched every time a fan thanks me for my career.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm glad I was able to entertain them.
yeah. Last question though, because I did think he was quite the character. Todd Pettengill. Do you still keep in contact with him?
No, I didn't really keep in touch with them then.
Yeah.
No.
You guys working together. I remember that WWF Mania.
What's he doing now?
I think he went into radio. I think he does radio now.
Well, he was doing radio then, so I guess he probably still is. Yeah.
We went back to it. So, all right, Raven. Well, we'll let you get on with your day. So, thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Victoire. Thank you, Raven, a true legend, probably a future WWE Hall of Famer, I'm certain. So, we thank you. And until next time, Victoire.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Victoire. We hope that you enjoyed your experience, and we encourage you to subscribe to our channel, like, and share our videos. It helps us share these incredible stories with more people around the world. Until next time, victor what you must victor in your life. Victoire.